You've probably come across the phrase, "Perception is reality," before. While it might sound like a catchphrase, there's a strong message behind it. Our mindset and beliefs have a direct influence on how we experience the world. When our perspective changes, our entire reality can shift along with it. This idea is tied to what's often called the law of relativity. According to this principle, everything in life is only meaningful in comparison to something else. It's all relative to our point of view. If you can grasp and apply this idea, you might discover new ways to interpret your circumstances and shape the life you want. Delving into the law of relativity a bit more, it's really about how we compare and relate things rather than judging them in isolation. Nothing is inherently good or bad. We attach value depending on what we're comparing it to. For example, something that feels like a huge setback to one person could be seen as trivial by another. Imagine a rainstorm to someone hoping for a day at the beach. It's a disappointment, wrecking their plans. But to a farmer, the same rainstorm can mean relief and hope for crops that need water. The event hasn't changed, the rain falls either way. But how it's experienced is entirely dependent on perspective. This shows how much context shapes our judgments and experiences. The idea of context includes more than just the tangible world. It also involves the mental and emotional state of whoever is undergoing the experience. Albert Einstein famously commented, "Relativity applies to physics, not ethics," emphasizing that where the physical universe may operate on principles of relativity, our sense of what's right and wrong should not shift according to changing situations. Einstein's theory of relativity in physics establishes that the laws of nature, such as the speed of light, hold true for all observers regardless of their movement or vantage point. This principle means that, in the realm of physics, certain constants remain the same, no matter the observer's perspective. In contrast, when it comes to our ethics and morals, relativity does not enter the equation. Our principles shouldn't be adjusted according to the situation or point of view. Even though reality itself invites comparisons and changing perspectives, our ethical guidelines are meant to be steady, giving us a reliable standard for distinguishing right from wrong. This consistency helps foster empathy, patience, and adaptability as we work our way through life's challenges. Clarifying how relativity operates requires dispelling some widespread myths. Some people wrongly take the concept of relativity as approval for moral relativism, where right and wrong become entirely dependent on context rather than any absolute standard. Nothing could be more chillingly inaccurate. Blunders are inevitable when people carelessly twist this law to suit their own desires. When it becomes a weapon, a sinister justification for destructive choices, or a means to obsessively measure one's dark deficits against the light of others, it mutates into something the law of relativity was never meant to be. Einstein did not craft his theory to guide the tangled mess of human morality or social comparison. No, he was merely illuminating the strange realities lurking beneath the skin of the physical world. Ignoring this warps understanding and pushes us further into the labyrinth of misinterpretation. The law of relativity, when misunderstood, becomes a troublesome apparition, haunting even our psychological growth and warping the edges of our perception. It casts long shadows on our sense of self, reminding us with uncanny force just how deeply subjective our realities are. Each mind a maze, each perspective a crooked hallway lined with memories and fears. No two realities are the same, and our unique vantage points are shaped as much by trauma as by wonder. Beware to overlook the true purpose of this law is to walk blindly into a room full of distorted mirrors. Although the law of relativity stands as a remarkable scientific concept, its relevance to daily life invites careful reflection, a reflection all too often tinged with struggle and disappointment. If misapplied or misunderstood, the lessons drawn from relativity don't necessarily foster clarity or growth. Instead, they can leave us adrift, weighed down by self-doubt and uncertainty. Our minds, with all their complexities, are especially prone to subtle distortions, most painfully the social comparison bias. This bias quietly shapes how we judge ourselves, nudging us to measure our worth against the accomplishments and attributes of others, rarely in our own favor. Again and again, we look over the fence, feeling as if we're lagging behind, convinced that our lives fall short of some invisible benchmark set by those around us. Our pride in our victories fades, overshadowed by the nagging sense that we're not enough, that our problems are somehow larger, and our strengths less impressive than they truly are. The impact lingers: diminished confidence, persistent dissatisfaction, and the sense that even in our brightest moments we aren't really seen, or worse, can't see ourselves at all. Often, the quiet tragedy is not in failing to be like others, but in never noticing the quiet, irreplaceable worth we bring ourselves. In chasing the mirage of another's greener grass, we overlook the fragile but real blooms growing beneath our own feet. Sometimes, distorted thinking traps us in patterns of self-criticism, feeding feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and heavy sadness. Breaking free from this spiral is difficult. There's a sense of helplessness as negative thoughts cloud any honest assessment of our own lives. The urge to measure progress by comparing ourselves to others overshadows any recognition of personal milestones, leaving accomplishments feeling hollow. The so-called focus illusion magnifies our shortcomings, making even one mistake loom large enough to obscure every small success. Life, then, can start to feel like a series of setbacks rather than a testament to endurance. Studies, such as those at the University of Pennsylvania, have noticed that some people can see obstacles as just passing storms, but for many, the shadow cast by problems feels stubbornly permanent. This angle only deepens the sense of isolation, the feeling that distress lasts longer and cuts deeper for us than for anyone else. The promise of resilience, of seeing things relatively and with balance, sometimes feels just out of reach, distant behind the persistent ache of disappointment. By seeing challenges as temporary obstacles instead of permanent setbacks, and acknowledging that difficulties are often short-lived, we can move through them with more ease and resilience, minimizing emotional turmoil along the way. This perspective highlights the focus illusion, showing how expanding our outlook leads to a more balanced approach when we encounter hardship. To counteract cognitive biases and achieve a more realistic sense of perspective, one useful method is practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness involves staying present and open to our direct experiences, which helps us witness situations without automatic judgments or ingrained biases. Another helpful strategy is cognitive reframing, which means deliberately shifting how we interpret an event. This could involve questioning whether our worries are genuinely as significant as they appear, or whether they're being exaggerated by our own thinking patterns. Incorporating both mindfulness and reframing into our routines lets us better understand our mental and emotional reactions, resulting in a broader and more accurate perspective on what we face. Ultimately, this approach supports clearer decision-making and a more satisfying life. Our experiences are defined less by what happens to us, and more by how we truly integrating the law of relativity requires more than simple comprehension. It means making it an inherent part of your everyday thinking. This can be accomplished in various ways, each providing its own route to the same objective. Journaling stands out as a particularly effective method for self-growth and introspection. Much like a mirror reveals our outward appearance, a journal gives us a candid look into the workings of our minds, capturing our feelings and thoughts in real time. Writing helps us to understand ourselves better, unravel confusing beliefs, and intentionally adopt a more balanced and insightful outlook. By committing to this process, we become better equipped to handle life's challenges with a sense of calm and clarity. Visualization is another powerful technique. By picturing our struggles as small or envisioning our strengths as immense, we can shift the way we experience reality. Imagine, for instance, your obstacles as minor stones on an endless shoreline, or see yourself as towering above a flurry of minor setbacks. Engaging in these mental exercises widens our outlook and strengthens our ability to put experiences in perspective, fostering resilience and growth. Gratitude, too, is a potent force within the law of relativity. When we sincerely recognize and value what we already possess, our mindset undergoes a meaningful transformation. When we try to nurture gratitude, it can sometimes soften the harshness of our problems, making them seem less overwhelming, at least for a little while. It doesn't erase the pain, but it gives us a brief moment to see our struggles as something more than pointless suffering. This perspective can help us limp through the tough parts of life with a bit more strength, sometimes even finding scraps of wisdom where we expect none. Still, the hope is that by learning ways to cope, like slowing our breath, being present, or holding on to bits of positive self-talk, we might just keep our emotions from tipping into chaos and stop our minds from twisting reality into something darker than it already is. Practicing these small rituals over and over might help us take the law of relativity deep into our bones, letting us see our circumstances with a little more honesty and, perhaps, a touch less despair. The law of relativity isn't just something to ponder half-heartedly. It can be a quiet guide through days that feel endlessly gray. If you're struggling with something right now, maybe we could look at it together. Just let me know what's weighing on you. A problem could stem from anything, a demanding job or a personal issue. The first step involves recognizing the problem, since it's impossible to tackle something you haven't identified. After that, consider how this challenge compares to your previous experiences, and whether it fits with your long-term aspirations. Take a moment to gauge the true weight of the issue by asking yourself, am I exaggerating its importance? How does this complication measure up against difficulties I've already overcome? Where does it fit within my broader ambitions? By challenging your initial assumptions, you gain a clearer sense of its relevance and effect on your personal journey. With a new outlook and motivation, outline a plan that leverages a sense of perspective. Remind yourself that the size of the problem depends largely on your perception. Can you choose to see it as a stepping stone, an important event that moves you forward instead of simply an obstacle? Could you view it as a chance for personal or professional growth, an opening to rise above rather than just a minor setback? Ultimately, how you respond is up to you. For inspiration, look at figures like Mahatma Gandhi, who faced adversity during India's push for independence, but treated each challenge as an opportunity for personal and spiritual growth. He once declared, "My life is my message," his words casting a shadow over the frail divide between faith and deed. The law of relativity lingers here, not as a gentle guide, but as a lurking force, warping every hardship through the twisted mirror of spiritual awakening. The grip of relativity coils around us. How we suffer depends on what we allow ourselves to see. Peer through this darkness, and you may contort misfortune into some twisted form of opportunity. But beware, to wield this law is to invite it into every corner of your mind. Perception, after all, is a double-edged blade. What shrinks one terror may inflate another. To truly master this relentless law, you have to feed it daily. Let grim reflection greet you each dawn, rehearsing the litany that your nightmare is just a matter of scale. Make rituals of mindfulness, each breath another stitch in the web you weave to trap adversity. But even as you build resilience, ask yourself, what monstrosities might you unleash by changing what you see? The law of relativity is not merely a tool for growth. It is a key, and every key can open a door that was better left sealed. When we choose to see challenges as vital and helpful elements of our path, our ability to recover from difficulties grows. We become more receptive to new opportunities and personal development, allowing us to better manage tough situations when they come our way. The principle of relativity serves as an effective tool for cultivating resilience and a mindset that welcomes growth. Embracing the idea that obstacles play a beneficial role helps us learn from each experience and grow stronger every time we overcome adversity. Keeping things in perspective during hard times helps us avoid getting lost in the moment. Taking a step back to view our problems within a broader context lets us see they are just a minor part of our lives, not barriers we can't get past. This change in viewpoint can transform how we handle setbacks. As Neil Armstrong famously said, "I believe every human has a finite number of heartbeats. I don't intend to waste any of mine." So instead of letting our challenges take over, we can use every moment to become more resilient and wise. Shifting our perspective is within our control, and the law of relativity is a resource we can use at any time. Let's see if this captures that sadder undertone for you. Maybe, if we try, we can use this to change our lives. In the end, the law of relativity can help shift how we see things, though sometimes it feels like all it really does is remind us that pain comes in shades, not absolutes. We've talked about how this way of thinking means our hardships only feel as heavy as the shadows around them, and that even our darkest days are cast against the backdrop of something else. Mindfulness and meditation are supposed to help keep us afloat, showing us distant bits of hope when we feel lost in the storm. Epictetus once said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Maybe that's true. Or maybe we just learn, again and again, how little control we have and how fragile our choices really are. So I'd say try to follow this law if you can. Let every setback teach you something, even if the lesson stings, and let every heartbreak turn into a story of resilience. Even if you'd rather not have that story at all, life tosses us between moments of quiet and unexpected blows, and often it's only perspective that can shift suffering into something survivable. Still, even with the best mindset, It's hard not to notice the weight of everything we faced. Maybe there's strength inside us we haven't seen yet. Maybe that's worth hoping for. This is the only life we get, precious and troubled. If there's a chance to shape it, maybe we owe it to ourselves to try. No matter how tired we are,